What's up? Thank you so much for checking me out here on Chick with Opinions. I'm Kaniki, but first let's take care of business. Go ahead and subscribe and like. I'll wait. Listen, so I want to talk about African American history as it relates to American history. In this chick's opinion, it's one and the same. And I recently had the opportunity to visit the International Civil Rights Museum down in Greensboro, North Carolina. This museum is the old Woolworths that used to be like a five and dime. And four university students of A&T University decided that they were tired of segregation and felt that they should be treated equally under the law. And so they launched the sit-in movement. It was launched February 1st, 1960. And this set off the desegregation of the United States. These students were David Richmond, Frank McCain, Ezell Blair, also known as Jabril Kazan, and Major General Joseph McNeil. These four students were students at North Carolina A&T, and like I said, they jumped off the sit-in movement, which eventually desegregated the South. And actually, two of the four are still living, and they are going to be at the International Civil Rights Museum in Greensboro, North Carolina on February 1st. So you might want to check them out. Anyhow, let's get into it because I really want to talk about this issue about African American history and really how African American history is American history. So the Department of Education in Florida, backed by the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, has decided to block the U.S. rollout of an AP course that is going to be the study of African American studies. This is, like I said, an AP course. So this is not a course that everyone is going to take. It's simply a course that if a child wanted to get a college credit, they could in this particular field of study. It's a rollout from the U.S. College Board. They're implementing this, or it's a pilot program in about 60 high schools across the United States. So Florida has decided to remove their high schools from this. And what they're going to be learning about is 400 years of African American history. And it's going to teach literature. It's going to teach political science and geography. But again, this rollout has been blocked by the Florida Department of Education and backed by Governor Ron DeSantis, citing that it lacks educational value and contrary to Florida law. Now, he didn't name the law, so we, I guess, have to take him at his word that it is against Florida law. This particular program is particularly egregious and disheartening because, like I said, the people that are blocking it says it lacks educational value. So the plight of the African American in America has no educational value. We don't need to learn about Black people in history in the United States, according to Governor DeSantis. That's troubling. Another troubling aspect of it is that kids in Florida, AP students in Florida, are able to learn or take AP European history. I'm going to let that sink in. AP students in Florida are able to take AP European history. They're able to take AP French language and culture. They're able to study German language and culture. They're able to study Italian language and culture. They're able to study Spanish language and culture. They're even allowed to study Spanish literature and culture. What do all of these have in common? They're not the study of Black people. Honestly, in this chick's opinion, this likens to the anti-literacy laws in the antebellum South. You know, states like Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi. All of these states had anti-literacy laws, which made it against the law for slaves to learn to read and write. So anyone caught teaching a slave could be, persecuted, prosecuted. They might even could have been put to death, and especially the slave. So you couldn't teach slaves to read and write, because slave owners felt that if slaves knew how to read and write, they would have enough know-it-all to probably emancipate themselves. Well, they were right, but I mean, come on now. So yeah, they were right that once we learned how to read and write, we could communicate with others and eventually, fight for our freedoms and so they were right, but it was still wrong. It was still wrong. Back during that time, slave owners felt slaves should know nothing but the will of the master. So we were supposed to just be, slaves were supposed to just be in blissful ignorance. Whatever the master told them to do, they were supposed to do it. It's not laughable, but it is laughable. So by passing this legislation that prevents high school students from taking this elective, the Florida School Board is afraid of what? What is Florida's school board afraid of? Because in the anti-literacy laws, they were afraid that slaves would free themselves. So what's Florida's school board afraid of? Ron DeSantis, what are you afraid of by teaching people American history as it relates to African Americans? This is what I feel, in this chick's opinion, they're afraid of. A knowledgeable people is an empowered people. When you know your history, then you can move forward and you can advance more fervently. That's what I think Ron DeSantis and the Florida Department of Education is afraid of. They're afraid of people being empowered, because when people are empowered, that means that they know the law, they know their history, and they can begin to have building blocks to correct history. And educated people is a people you cannot suppress. That's what they're afraid of. For whatever reason, people like Ron DeSantis and people like those that are on the Florida Department of Education feel that if people are educated, then they're going to want more in life. They're going to want more in the society. And if people get more, then they have less. And it's simply not true. There's enough resources in this great America for everybody. So just because one people rises doesn't mean another people have to fall. That's just this chick's opinion. And this is the funny thing is, or not even funny, the thing is, they are going to say, or this is what they're actually saying. They're saying that this particular class is politically driven. And being aware of historic injustices may create a false guilt among those who were not responsible for them. Really? We're not going to teach history because someone may feel guilty or maybe even feel empathetic to the plight of the slave and hence the black man and woman in America. So we're not going to teach history because someone might. Are we being serious here? Could you imagine not teaching about World War II because people of German descent might feel guilt about the atrocities that were perpetuated during the Holocaust. Can you imagine if we said, nope, we're not going to teach about World War II because people of German descent, just, the kids just can't take that guilt. Could you imagine if we didn't teach about World War II because Japanese Americans or Japanese people of Japanese descent might feel guilty because of the bombing of Pearl Harbor? So basically, in that train of thought, in that line of thought, you don't teach something because the perpetrators or the descendants of the perpetrators of that act may feel guilty. It makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. So basically, what they're saying is because of the guilt that people may feel, they say that they're deeming that as wokeness. So they have usurped the term woke to mean wrong to our kids and our employees. Really? Wrong to our kids and our employees? Now, it's ridiculous because that was never, ever considered when I was growing up and I was being taught American history. And as far as I was aware, in the school system at least, and as far as I was aware, American history and as it relates to Black people, we were just slaves. And all those years during slavery, that's all we were. There were never any inventors. There were never any contributions of slaves to American history. Yeah, we heard about Frederick Douglass. Yeah, Nat Turner. We heard about them. But in all of those years, that's all we heard about. Of course, Harriet Tubman. So we heard about W.E.B. Du Bois. We did hear about those, but I took AP classes. I don't know what they were teaching in regular classes, but yeah, we knew about those great individuals during slavery. And then, so we knew slavery, and then we jumped to the civil rights movement. There was no in between. There was the 1800s and then the 1960s. So all that in between history that we contributed to wasn't noteworthy in my studies in school. So they're trying to say that teaching African American history is wokeness and it's just not going to be tolerated in our schools. I say we take back the term woke. It really is not what they are saying it is. Woke is simply an awareness of racial prejudice and discrimination. It's just an awareness. And I'll take it a step further. Not only is it an awareness, it's an articulation of such things. Because we have for far too long not had a platform to even be able to talk about the atrocities that are placed on us as Black people here in America. We have not been able to speak on how the beginning of America has implicitly incorporated its biases in the systems that govern us. So woke simply means that we are aware of the racial prejudices and discrimination. And honestly, for me, woke is where open-mindedness and knowledge exist. Woke. Where open-mindedness and knowledge exists. That's my definition of woke. So I really feel that things like this, like not allowing the teaching of this particular class, is an injustice, not only to Black students or African American students, it's an injustice to all students who really want to get to the core of American history. It's an injustice because when you don't know your history, you're more likely to repeat it. And we don't want to repeat. Well, we're not going to repeat that. Okay? So what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? Hit me up at chickwithopinions.com. Let me know your ideas, or comment on this page. I will say that the Woke Act that Governor DeSantis, that the legislation of Florida and Governor DeSantis implemented, there was an injunction put on it. And the injunction prevented the enforcement of this law because they said it was too vague. So basically, they wanted to roll out this law, and it would be a catch-all for anything African American. It would just be the catch-all. It would be, no. That's against the Stop Woke Act. Not only was it too vague, the judge that ordered the injunction actually said it could be discriminatory against speech based on a viewpoint. So basically what that says is it's covered under First Amendment rights. And everybody wants to tout, I have the First Amendment right to say what I want to say as long as it's not hate speech. I have the First Amendment right. But in this particular act, the Stop Woke Act, basically they're saying that, we have the right to say what we want, but you don't. You don't. And now Attorney Ben Crump just announced today, Wednesday, that he is suing Governor DeSantis for not implementing the AP class in Florida. That's going to be a good one. That's because actually, in all seriousness, it really seems to be discriminatory. If you allow all these other ethnicities in the AP curriculum, why not allow African American studies in the AP curriculum? Makes no sense to me if you're trying to be fair. That seems political. So I want to close. I have this little poem. Not anything spectacular to me. But I want to close out because I think this is something I wrote years ago. I think I was in middle school or maybe high school. I don't know. But it's something I wrote years ago, and I really think it's fitting for right now. I've changed it a little bit just, for this time. But it goes a little something like this. Man, oh man, my beautiful black human, my proud brothers and sisters with a strength that can withstand centuries of abomination, degradation, exploitation, and humiliation, wedded by a society that permits condemnation. Though these mights are great and coupled with much hate, to suppress another people was never in their fate. We fought with dedication, desperation, determination, and justification, made pungent through the years of dormant frustration. We can't give up the fight. We have to see it to the end. Because until you see me as you see yourself, nobody ever wins. Thank you for checking me out here on Chick with Opinions. I'm Kaniki. And remember, it's not an attitude, it's a movement. Peace.